Welcome back to the Opportunity Room, the show where we sit down with true leaders, change makers, people who are turning ambition into actions. Today I'm joined by two incredible guests, Lamin Faye and Majay Njai, both successful professionals who once made one of the hardest decisions in their life to leave home and study abroad. We'll explore what led to that decision, what it cost, what it taught them about opportunity, identity, and success. So I'm going to welcome you guys. Welcome, Mr. Faye, and welcome, Majay
Okay.
Njai.
Thanks, Amadou. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the invite.
All right, I'm looking forward to this conversation, man. This is a very interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to because not only you guys are my friends, but we share a lot of things that we're gonna actually display here in this conversation today. So I'm gonna start with you, Lamin. What was happening in your life? You know, when you decided to just take that first flight and just go to study abroad.
That's that's a way to start this conversation, Amadou. Well, what was happening in my life? Well, first, I have to say that at the time I was very young. I was 17 years old when the idea of coming to the US to pursue my education came about. But mine was not the classic. Route that most of my friends or people that I know have taken, where you finish high school. My coming to America was came out of a tragedy because I had lost my mom very early during that year, and I had an uncle or cousin who was living in Jersey at the time, who was like, "Lamine, why don't you come in here and study?" So. That's how I left Senegal and I came to America. I was in 10th grade. And that's it. The rest is history.
Nice. So Jenna, I'm gonna ask you the very same question. What led to the decision for you to come to America, whether to study, do business? What triggered that decision for you?
Yeah, for me, I think mine is a little bit different from Lamine. So mine, I finished high school and I had scholarship to go study in Europe, like particularly in France, Marseille. But for some reason, for me, it was like I needed to be independent from my parents because I have seen so many times that people that are in France or in Europe, they usually get money from their parents, sending them money to go to school and that. And so I actually, after I finished high school, I almost stayed like almost a year in Senegal because I had a scholarship, but I was like, I'm not going because I know if I go, I'm going to be depending on my parents too much. So that was pretty much that reason. I was like, okay, I need to go study in the U.S. because I heard that you are able to find a job, at least be independent and not depending on your parents. So that was really what pushed me to come to the U.S.
All right, two different people from Senegal. Actually, two different stories for what led them to America. Interesting. We're gonna unfold and ask more questions as we go along. So going back to that event, Lamine, and I'm sorry to hear of the passing of your mom. After you came to America, can you tell us what was your welcome to America moment?
Whew. That's, well, first I arrived in October, and I automatically felt this is different because when I left Senegal, it was my cousin that took me to the airport in a car, and I landed in JFK, this big airport, and my cousin came and picked me up, and we took a subway train from JFK all the way to Times Square, and I'm seeing all these lights and building. And from Times Square, we took another train to Jersey City at the time, walking with my suitcase, and I'm looking at all these buildings, and it automatically hit me like, wow, the US that I'm seeing on the video, because back then your reference of America is always hip hop videos, right?
Right.
So so you you quickly realize that this is totally different. And the language barrier, I mean, I have a specific story that I can share later on. That was one of the key thing. But quickly after coming in, settling in, and getting registered to go to school, my cousin made me understand like, look, this country is not just for you to go to school and come and watch TV. You have to work, right? So even while in high school, I actually applied for a job, and my first job in America was a dishwasher in a restaurant in Manhattan.
Right.
And I remember when I first got that job, I was one day sitting peeling some potatoes in the
Right.
back of the restaurant, and and I was just like, whoa. And the chef came by there and was like, Lamine, I don't know, man. You look very sad, man. What's happening here, man? You got a job. You should be happy. I'm like, man, if I were to tell you that 3 weeks ago I had a maid that was making my room, and today I'm in New York peeling potatoes, you would not believe me. So it
Right.
was that was my welcome to America. Hey, here you have to work, you have to sweat, and you just a regular. I mean, trying to make it. So
That's
yeah.
great, man. What a funny story. So before I ask you the same thing, Majane, I will tell you my welcome to America moment. But now I don't remember whether it was in Brooklyn or in Bronx, right? But when I
Yeah.
came to the U.S., I was welcomed by a friend of the family, and we went straight to the apartment. So I was just mesmerized, just like everybody, by the buildings and everything that was happening in New York. Everybody know how busy New York is. But as soon as I get to that their apartment, well, they already have more than 15 people on a 3 bedroom apartment. So I was like, okay, wow, that's interesting. So, but beyond that, the thing that really that I remember to this day was I saw some big and bold rats that was roaming around the kitchen. And the crazy thing about it is they were actually on top of the food, the stove while they were cooking. I'm like, man, you got to be kidding me, man. I was like, this is America for us.
No way.
I'm not ready to
Well,
settle down in this country, man.
so you had
So
roommates. You had rats as roommates too.
absolutely, man. I
That
didn't
is
even
so
I
cool.
never seen rats that big. Even in
Yeah,
Africa, when people have that idea that Africa is a jungle or whatnot, man, I never
Right.
yeah,
seen rats that big, man. But
that's
yeah,
right.
that was my welcome to America moment, man, and that was just until today, man. It
That
just
is New
Yeah,
York. That is New York for you, man.
New York.
absolutely,
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
So Jenna, tell us what was your welcome to America moment, man.
So mine is it was funny. So I was supposed to like just stop in New York and then take the next flight right
Right,
to Athens because I was going to University of Georgia.
right,
So the flight actually left Dakar too late, so I missed my connection. So I got
okay,
to New York, and I'm in New York, and I'm like, I missed the flight. I don't know what to do next. And there was this guy who was pretty nice. Back then they used to have those payphones, right? So carried me to the payphone. So I called my mom, called my dad. I'm like, hey, I'm in New York. I missed my flight. I don't know what to do next.
right,
And so my uncle, who was in Athens, he's the one that kind of called one of his friends who was in New York to
right,
come pick me up. But I was at the airport for like probably like 5 hours, man, because it's New York. I'm sitting there. I missed my flight, and I don't know what to do next. And then
right,
so it was kind of crazy. And then he came and picked me up. We went to Queens. I hang out there. I stayed with him like probably like 3 days before I can get another flight to go. And he had a lady there that was staying with him. And the funny thing is, the lady took me to go get this on the subway, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I want to
right,
go to the subway. And
right,
then we go to the subway, and she's like, you know what? You need to jump. And I'm like, what do you mean jump? She's like, nobody paying in New York. You just got to jump over the subway. And I tried to jump, then I fell and I hurt myself. And I was like, man, this is crazy, man. I'm in America. I'm doing all these stupid things. And, I think one of the biggest moment actually for me was, going to McDonald's and trying to order. And I'm looking and everybody's like, looking at me. And I felt like everybody was looking at me,
right,
and you go and you just look at it and you're like, man, everybody's looking at me. I don't know what I'm gonna order. It's like, and the lady comes and say, hey, may I take your orders? And I'm like, shit, what do I say? She's like, may I take your orders? I'm like, She's like, order. I was like, oh yeah, dude. And I just show her something on the screen, and I'm like, and what I took actually happened to be at that time they had bacon in it, and before I I was able to eat it, you know,
Right,
the lady I was with, she was like, that's there's bacon in it. If I was like, what is bacon? I mean, coming from Senegal, I mean,
right.
and she was like, "Oh, bacon is like pork and stuff," and I was like, "Oh, okay, so I cannot eat this." And that was kind of weird to me. But I think the biggest thing for me was just missing that flight and having to stay in New York,
Right.
And I was pretty much amazed though with New York, just looking at the buildings. I've been to Europe a little bit, but never seen buildings like that. And then seeing everybody's like on the move, like New York, you're trying to get to the subway, people push you, jump, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy, man. But that was pretty much my welcome moment in the US. So
Interesting, man. This New York is just. I know if New York can speak, man, New York will tell 1,000 story about immigrants, man. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, so many people they have to transit through New York before they go to whatever destination they have
that's
to
right.
go, man. So
Yeah.
so many different stories, so many interesting immigrant stories, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me just digress a little bit and just ask you again, Lamin. So I know you were pretty much quote unquote maybe forced to go to the U.S. but because your mom passed away in different circumstances. Uh, how did you prepare mentally for that journey? Looking back, what was it? Courage, faith, curiosity? What pushed you the most?
Well, so first, let's say that at that time before coming over here, I was always fascinated. I was fascinated by the United States. I was
Right,
fascinated by the U.S., the American culture,
right,
um, and I had an opportunity to come in like a couple of years for before on vacation for 2 weeks. So I discovered this place, and it stuck on my mind.
right,
And even being back home, I had always envisioned like someday I want to live here, right? So
right,
prepare, and I loved English. I was always studying very well, in school to make sure I get my English up to a certain standard. So for that sense, I was prepared to because I was already projecting myself there. I don't know how, but I had projected myself that this is the place that I'm going to live before anything happened.
right.
So when the decision came, it was not one of those plans you're going to go on this day. This is what you're going to do. No, there were conversations that happened. Of course, I already had a visa,
Right.
and then it was like, hey, there is a flight next week. We'll put you on there, and here you are. So it was, and that the way things unfolded for me, I think. That's just how it is for me because even I tell people all the time, I never learned how to swim, right? In
Right.
Senegal, in Senegal, there was this place in Mermoz we used to call piscine.
Right.
I learned how to swim because I walk to the rocks, and then by the time it was time for me to get back, it was high tide, so I had to jump
Mm,
in the water and swim across. So
right.
my preparation or my coming was like that. It's like you are thrown into a situation. Now here I am, and I'll figure it out. You know.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. I know. You know what, the way you approach life is something
Mhm.
that there are many books that talks about that. The fact that you have
Yeah.
to just be in the situation and just figure
Mhm.
it out, right? So there are thousands or many books that talks about just getting in the situation and figuring it out. So I guess that's one of your stories where you learn through your experience, or you learn because your back's you're against the wall. If you use that analogy of the jumping in the water and just figuring it out how to get across on the other side of
Right.
the water.
So I would need to. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. And since this is a
Mhm.
dynamic conversation,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you know, like I would and Amadou, we're gonna turn Jana. Let's turn the mic on Amadou because he's
I
always the
agree.
one asking
Right.
questions.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Go ahead. I
so
agree.
so me, well, first I'm gonna get to later on what what is the opportunity room about? But before that,
Right.
like for you, what was that transition like? Like how was your how did the decision come about the US for you?
All right. For me, it's similar to Jenna's situation, right? We are colonized by French people, so all of us have the tendency when we graduate from high school. It's a natural gravitation towards going to Europe for those who can afford it, right? If you cannot afford it, if you have a scholarship, or if you did good at school, you probably end up going to Europe or on a full scholarship, right? But in my case, at that time, that's when hip hop has started to rise, right? And I was watching my brother. My brother has always been my role model. So he was bringing at the house all of those movies about Malcolm X, right? I was watching a lot, listening to a lot of Tupac. A lot of those Jay Z was just starting to
Yeah,
get some a little bit of notoriety. So I
yeah,
started to embrace hip hop culture, right? Liking
yes,
how American was living from distance, right? Because there is a different perspective when you
Right.
see that from distance versus living it firsthand, right? So I started to enjoy the American culture from distance. So when my parents told me, "Well, you're gonna just follow your brother's footstep and go to French and study," and I was like, "No, I really want to take a chance and just go to the U.S. because I like what I see as far as culture, and I would love to just go to school in America." So for me, I wasn't one of the most brilliant student, but it was one of those person that
But
anytime I
you
wanted
went
to.
to wait. You're not brilliant, but you went to the top elite military school in Senegal, though. So
yeah,
you
that's
had to
Right.
right.
have some type of.
Now there is a difference between being smart and being brilliant at school, right?
Okay.
My thing was I know I was smart because I was able to enter that school, and anytime my thing was I just wanted to wait until we have an exam to prove how good I was. But
Okay.
before then, I will never chase to become the first in my class. I will always just, as long as I have all good grades to get to the next level, I just go for it, right?
No
But if
problem.
my back is against the wall and there's an exam and we have to pass the exam or fail that class, I will probably be top 10 or top 5 because that's how my brain functions. I like to be put against the wall for me to react. So yes, I was a smart student, but I wasn't one of the brightest in class.
Yeah.
So when I decided to go to the US, that was really mainly what encouraged me to actually, well, it's a longer story because I can actually describe it a little bit because I was watching a video. There was this kid in Silicon Valley, right? That was just created an app and sold it for million and bought his parents a house. So I was watching that video with my mom, and I told my mom, "Listen, I could do the same thing that this kid just did. Just send me to America, right? And I'm just gonna shrink that story because it was a longer story after that." And fast forward, a few months later, I was able to get my visa and just head to Texas for to start school, man. That's my story, man.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
dig some more later on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the question, man. So, Majena, I'm going to ask you a similar question. I know you and I spoke a while back, and you were very not smart and just brilliant school because you had your high school diploma with flying colors. Because I don't know how to describe that. You have different grade, different
Yeah.
passing grade, but you
Mhm.
were able to have a very grade when you pass your high school diploma, and but you wanted to come to the US to study. Tell me how that conversation went with your parents. How did you decide? Okay, I'm gonna you of course you touched on it earlier, but how did you decide to go to Athens and study there?
Yeah. So mine. I mean, I was okay student. I mean, I did study. I think pretty good when I was in school. So when I finished high school, I had a full scholarship in France, and then I had full scholarship for Cheikh Anta Diop. So, and I was probably like 18, So my dad, for him, he was like, no, no way, you're not going to the U.S. because I think, he was always watching TV and seeing, all this shooting and craziness happening in the U.S. So for him, he was like, never, you're never going to go to the U.S. That's not even a question. for him, it was like, okay, you have to go in France, right? Because all the good students, like you say earlier, I mean, in Senegal, all the good students, they pretty much go to, try to go to France. I mean, if you study, you got your high school diploma, the next step is going to France, study, and then either come back or find a job there. That's just the way everything has been done, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I didn't want to go, so I wanted to go to the US. So I had to kind of build a coalition, right? So go see all my uncles, go see my aunt, go see, like, because my mom by herself, she could not convince my dad. So I had to go see my uncle, who
Right.
had to go, and I had one uncle that was here too in the US. And he was very friend with my dad because he always, bring gift to my dad and stuff. So I had to talk to him. So it took me pretty much about like 7 months before I was able to come here. So so I did University of Cheikh Anta Diop for almost a year.
Okay.
So I mean, and when I was there, I had full scholarship, but I was not going to classes. I was just like, I'm not going to classes. So I was staying in my room. I had they give you a room, I was getting money, in Senegal. I mean, at that time, I mean, I was probably getting about almost close to 100,000 francs, which is about $200. That I was getting back then. So it was like, I was living the good life, honestly.
Right.
And when my dad found out that I was missing class, oh my God, all all hell broke loose. So he was mad. He was like, he didn't get it. He's like, how can you be you've been studying so hard, you have achieved all this stuff. Why? And I was like, if I'm not going to the US, I'm not gonna. He's like, okay, we're gonna force you to go to France. I'm like, you can force me to go to France, but I'm not gonna study. I'm just letting you know right now. The only place I'm gonna go is the US. Because it was like two things. Like one, I didn't want to depend on my parents, and at the same time, I wanted to be kind of away from my parents because my dad is a professor, so you can kind of imagine professor at the university, so he's always like been pushing me to be the best in school, and I
Right.
didn't pretty much have a choice. So I kind of felt like at that point I needed to kind of enjoy life in a certain way, and the US was the only place where I knew that it was going to take them time before they can come to the US. But in France, they could just like jump on the next flight and come see me, right?
Right. Right.
So that was what honestly really pushed me. And my uncle who was here helped me a lot. I mean, he passed now. He's the one that kind of helped me really get us accustomed in the US, and learning about the culture. And so even though I was mostly on campus, he spent a lot of time educating me. The only thing that was kind of different for me is when I came in Athens, I didn't know anybody else who was from either Senegal or even Africa, because at that
Right.
time at the University of Georgia, there was uh, a small minority of even small minority of black or any other race. It was like 95,
Absolutely.
probably like 95%,
Oh,
or
wow.
80 85% Caucasian. So I had to kind of learn, and I learned a lot, and so it helped me a lot. It helped me when I got here. I had to learn a lot. I had to study, and of course English. I loved English when I was, because we all grew up on hip hop, right? We all
Right.
love Tupac, love Jay Z, and you think you know English because I did American English language in Senegal, and
Right.
you know English until you get to the US and people start talking, and I'm like,
Right.
hell, what did I learn?
What did I
And
learn? Right.
when you end up in Athens, which is like Georgia, bro,
Right.
I'm like, these people are not speaking English. There's no way they're speaking English because I couldn't understand anything because you have
Absolutely.
a southern accent that's on it. So, but it was a good journey, and I learned a
Right.
lot from there. So yeah, that's pretty much that. How about you, Amadou? What was your pretty much welcome to America like?
Man,
Amazing.
for me, I told you guys, from New York. I had a school. My school was in Texas, actually, Texas Southern University.
Mhm.
Uh,
HBCU, huh?
no, not right, right. Yes, 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 yes,
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
nice,
Absolutely, yes.
nice.
So when I went to Texas Southern University, I did my ESL, English as a second language, right? That was
Yeah,
the first class that we were all obligated to
take.
take
Yeah,
before we started taking our courses.
absolutely.
And from there, I started taking my regular classes. But I soon found out that it was very expensive to go to Texas Southern University. So I had to transfer because my parents couldn't afford to pay for my education. So it was very expensive. So I had to transfer from Texas Southern University to Houston Community College, which it was way more affordable,
Yeah,
right? It was pretty much half of the you pay half or one third of the cost of
Yeah.
traditional university. So the good way of most immigrant was doing, they go to a community college until they get their associate degree, and they go to a university where they get the bachelor degree. So I went to community college, and after a couple of semesters, it wasn't sitting well for me. Right, I was like, man, yeah, the language barrier. I had a complex of inferiority for me for a while. I felt like I did not fit in. Right, so I had to take a pause on school for a little bit. Right, and just kind of work on myself, like develop myself, starting to develop that love for myself, believe in myself again. Like I said, I came from a very, very, very challenging and very good school, but I lost all that confidence along the way because I came from a different environment, right? Didn't have mentorship. I just got thrown in a different environment. No families, nobody to push me, nobody to tell me, hey, you could do it. So I had to kind of reinvent myself, believe in myself again, and it took me probably a good 4 to 5 years of for me to get back to school, and I ended up actually finishing school at Westwood College. I did my bachelor's and got hired on by AT&T, and AT&T paid for my master's degree at DeVry University. And to me, what was able to separate myself later on was not only the degree, because those schools they're not one of the best schools in America, right? Westwood College, not a lot of people know it. DeVry University doesn't have one of the best rating as far as university. But what did it for me was I understood that I was in IT, and the value of education in IT is certification, right?
Right.
So I went for one of those challenging certification that separated myself from people and put me on the pedestal of people who went to Georgia Tech and one of those bright schools. Because if you had a certification in IT, they respected you. So they forget about the degree and forget about the path you took. So I had to go. That was my hack, doing those certification. And when it was time for me to enter those major corporations, it was easy for me.
Wonderful.
So, Lamin, circling back, just
Yeah.
I know we don't have time to elaborate on our career path, and because you have a very very impressive career path. You a global professional. You work both in America in major corporations like Delta, uh, American Airline, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah.
and those major corporations that based in Africa. You have major contribution along in those different corporations. What did you learn in America to give you that self of confidence and grit and always perseverance? Was that innate in you, or you developed that in America?
Oh, Amadou, I think that's a tough question. I don't know if it was something that was innate in me because the same thing you went through when you first got here, I went through it.
Okay.
You come from an environment where you know in Senegal you know your neighborhood, you know you come from a certain, you understand the language, you're comfortable, and you are into a new world where one, you don't speak the language,
All right.
you know, you're the dark skinned African guy, you know, so you are not top right anymore. Now you're at the bottom, and
All right.
you have to work twice as hard to be average.
Right.
So you, I've through experience, right? I
Right.
told you when I was in high school, for instance, I had a job as a dishwasher.
Right.
But then when school break and came, I went back to Manhattan and I got a job. There was this construction site, this new restaurant that was being built,
Right.
and I got hired on for the summer to help them, you know, just move things around.
Right.
So I did that for 3 months, and when they opened up the restaurant, the manager told me, "Hey, we need somebody in the kitchen, right?" So I went from construction site to dishwasher in that same restaurant. Then 6 months later, he's like, "Hey, Lamine, you want to be a pastry assistant?" So I was in the pastry kitchen, preparing cake for this very top French chef. And at the time, he even wanted me to go to culinary school, which is something that I didn't do. So I'm learning that, oh, wow, this is a place where if you work hard, if you're in a place and you prove yourself, you can get to the next level, right?
Right.
So later on, when I moved from Jersey or New York to go to Texas to pursue my education, I had a job in a retail store because me too, just like you, I went to Houston Community College
Right.
because I didn't have the luxury of having a scholarship.
Right.
Nor did I have parents that could pay for my education. So for me, I
Right.
had to work to pay. So I got a job at Buckle, and I came in that store as a part time. I think you and I actually, Amadou, we met the first time when I was working at the mall there.
Right.
This is like maybe almost 15 years ago. So I
Absolutely.
came in part time, then I moved on to assistant manager. Then I was promoted to manager to go to to a place in Texas. But it hit me. I'm like, wait, I mean, I'm managing a store in America. I'm 20 at the time. I'm 23 years old,
Right.
uh, with a volume of $2 million. I have people who are interning under me who are pursuing the NBA. And Buckle was a company that, out of 350 something managers, there were only 10 of them who were black, and I was the only African, right? So again, it's this thing about America that if you are in a place, once you get through the door and you work hard and you prove yourself, you can always move up to certain ranks, right?
Right.
But also, Amadou, along the way, I've learned that the journey, there's always been the blessing is because the opportunity I was given at these jobs because I had one mentor, Lawrence Patterson, who I think who was my area manager, African American man, who was like, Lamine, man, I know you can do this, man. We're going to open up a store and I want you to be the manager. And he's the one that fought for me to get to that place, right?
Right.
And now once I got to that place, I could not let him down. So I'm pushing myself to get to the next level. So yes, so I did retailing, and then when an opportunity came for me to join the airline industry, Delta, it made sense because I grew up in that industry and I love. My father used to work for Air France, and it's something that was just in my DNA. So I saw an opening at Delta, and but it was a call center job, right?
Okay.
So I went from managing a retail store, making pretty decent money for my age, um, and to where I'm like, okay, I mean, what do you do now? Do you still stay in the mall managing staff, or do you want to now start shifting into a corporate role? So I took a
Right.
job at Delta at the call center.
Right.
When I'm like, thank you for choosing Delta. My name is Amadou. How can I help you? Right.
Right.
So that's how I entered into the Delta airline field. And
Right.
then later on, a position came in Delta as a reporting analyst, right, to
Right.
analyze the data. But the great thing there at Delta is they didn't say you need an MBA or anything. They tell you, okay, you have to take a test on
Right.
Excel.
Right.
So there was a bunch of candidates. So I didn't know anything about Excel, Amadou, but I went on YouTube and I started learning codes. I spent days, hours trying to figure out how does these tools work,
Right.
SQL and all of that. And I did the test, and lo behold, so I was called and say, "Hey, okay, you passed the test, so here's the job." Right.
Nice.
So, and I'm gonna drag on, but then even in Delta, while you're there, you learn, you're creating tools, people using it, and you start, getting analyst job and so forth. But the gist of it is it opened my world because that allowed me to travel back home, see opportunities, and one thing leads to another. So I do not, and that's where I like to tell people I don't have the classic course,
Right.
because most people come here, they go to college, they graduate from college, and then they get a job and they start moving up. For me, it was always I'm getting in, I'm working, I'm proving myself, and then
Right.
I get to the next level. And along the way, I'm taking classes, 1 credit here, 3 credit here, to
Right.
get to get to the degree. So uh, that's it. I hate to give you a long-winded
Oh, that's
explanation.
good.
That is a great,
But
great, great
Yeah.
answer. And I honestly, you alluded to asking me earlier what was the
yeah,
reason why we created the opportunity room, and it
right,
stemmed from a very simple idea, right? Most of us, like yourself, Majane, and myself, we struggle to get the information. We actually pave the way for the
right,
next generation, right?
right,
So this type of conversation are very good to actually open up, or just spark that idea for the person actually struggling to have a career path, struggling to know what is going to be my next move, right? One of us could be the one that's going to spark that interest, or their interest, right? Their journey can spark their interest and say, oh, let me follow Lamin path, or let me follow Majena path, or let me follow Amadou's path, right? And figure out how I can get to the next level, because the whole goal is to listen to people's stories and make it a strategy, right? And to just
right.
build on top of it and just make your own story.
Yeah,
So, Majena, I'm going to ask you yourself. I also, very impressive career, over 15, 20 years in corporate America. One of the gurus in the medical field. So, tell us, a little bit about your journey in corporate America, where you started and where you are today as a project manager. How easy was it? What are the obstacles, and how can somebody just start from college and just all the way as a program manager?
Yeah, I think it's never easy, I guess, path, right? Because
Right.
like both you guys say, like in the beginning, you definitely have a self-low esteem, right? In some way, right? Because your confidence is lacking because you can't express yourself like you want it because
right,
your English is not correct, in some way, and you don't want to be the one in the room that maybe speak with an accent or say things that people kind of look at you. So it's never been easy. So for me it was like, okay, I'm good. Once I finished school, and I was like, you know what, I finished school, I want to start working. So I started working, and so my background is mechanical engineering. So once I finished, I was like, okay, let me start working, and I started working in the first job I had as when I graduated was in automotive and the automotive industry. So I was working for this company. We were making like molded parts. Like if you go to your car, all those parts that are in it, we had the molds to make those parts for like Hondas, BMW and that. So this place I used to work, so I was the only black person in the office or the management office, right?
Right.
So, and I mean, disclaimer, I hated that job, but because I was working, honestly, because I graduated and then I end up, I had a decent salary, and I was
Right.
working like almost like 15 hours a day because it seems like they were pushing me to work because, more than everybody else, because I had
Right.
to prove myself because, you know, I studied, and I was on top of my class, but I was in college, I was part of the top. And then
Right.
I started working at this place, and they questioning me every day,
Right.
like, oh no, this, and I'm like, yo, this is, at first it pissed me off, and I'm like, yo, you know what, at the end
yeah,
of the day, one thing you learn in America is you don't never give up. You keep
Right.
proving yourself, and you're not doing it because of them, you're doing it for yourself because it
Right.
help you build whoever you are going to be, build your confidence, and then you'll definitely find the path for it. So I started like working a lot of hours and spending a lot of time YouTube, just like you say, I mean, reading book. I used to read a lot of books, and then I think I forgot the name of the guy that I one time watched on YouTube, and he said something that was very important to me. He said, in corporate America, you have to find a mentor,
yeah,
because if you don't have a mentor,
yeah,
you are not going to learn how to navigate through this. And I was like, man, that's what I need.
Right.
I don't know how to find a mentor. I don't know what the hell, is a mentor. Who I go to, because I know where I was working, I couldn't do anything. So I
Right.
reached out to one of my teacher, one of my professor, who was, a good professor, and I did a lot of stuff because I did a lot of work with him, while I was
Right.
in college. So he introduced me to one guy who was like a VP in a company, GM actually.
Yeah.
And so I started talking to this guy. I call him. I would call him like for hours. He would, and sometimes he'd be honestly, it'd be like conversation where I finish, I'm like, I didn't learn anything, but it'd be just like talking. He tells you
Right.
stuff. He explained you, what are some of the stuff you need to do, what certification you need, because in America you have to always trying to learn something new, trying to
Right.
push yourself. And I don't think it's just America, it's just the world that's like that.
Right.
But in America, it's more aggressive because there's so many new talent coming, and if you don't, hone your knife or make sure that you are always on top, then it's going to be hard for you to move forward. So you do it
Right.
for yourself. So he's the one that kind of pushed me doing that. And I was in the automotive, like I say. Then after the automotive, I started working for a company called Eaton. So they make like electrical panels. Like if you go to your house, those panels that you have that have all
Right.
the electricity. So they used to make. So I worked there, and I worked there. So the first job I was in, within a year, I mean, honestly, it was too much within a year, but I was able to find another job. So when I find that job at Eaton, I started working there. So I worked there for probably like 3 years. It was a good
Yeah.
job because I learned a lot there. And they have a university. A lot of companies now have university where you can learn skill, where you can train, you can have certifications, and I did that within there. And then funny things, I end up in the medical field, and I always tell people, I'm like, when I went to school for mechanical
Right.
engineering, I didn't even know that you could use those skills into the medical field.
Right.
Right.
So I got called by a recruiter, and they were like, "Oh yeah, there's this company, it's a medical company, it's top five company in the U.S. and in the world. You want to come in and work?" And I'm like, I don't know anything about the medical. I'm not a nurse. I didn't learn anything about the medical. It's like, no. So they do have. It's a medical device company. It's called Becton Dickinson, and they do medical device, and so they had an R&D, research and development group.
Right.
And so you work there, they create, we pretty much just do that, like create new product, improve existing product, for the
Yeah.
medical field. And so I started working there and started just as a design engineer. And I was like, okay,
Right.
that's fine. I don't, I'm learning. So that's
Right.
what pushed me into the medical field. And going through the medical field, I started learning. At first, it wasn't, I was like, okay, this is different from, mechanical. But I think what hit me the most is like going to hospitals, because I had that chance with the company I was with to go to hospital, and then people coming to you, it's like, yo, this product, did you work in this product? You're like, I'm like, yeah. He's like, this saved my life, or this saves, and I'm like,
Wow.
yo, dude, I'm making a difference, because
Right.
you don't realize that until when we do
Yeah.
everything we do in life. Sometimes we don't realize how it's impacting people's lives,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so, I kind of work myself to engineering until becoming primary engineers. And I'm like, I'm okay in the field I am, which is, designing, creating, developing test method, developing product. But I want to have bigger visions on how uh, you go from an idea all the way to the product, right?
Right.
Because for me, it was we go from the idea to creating the product, but you don't, as an engineer, you're not responsible for marketing. You don't work with a
Right.
marketing team. You don't work with a regulatory team. You deal with quality, but you don't work with clinical. You don't work, so all these different groups that you do not
Right.
really work with that. And so for me, and I was like, okay, I need to become. And I keep talking to my mentor all the time, giving me advice and letting me know about what I should do. And at Beckton, actually, I met another lady that is there. She was, I think, either senior VPs or but leadership level. And I talked to her, and she was like the first black person I seen that was like that high. And I was like, yo, this is amazing.
Right.
So I go to her and I'm like, I don't know how to, say this, but I need a mentor. And she was like, you don't have a mentor? I was like, I have a mentor, but, now that I'm in the medical field, which is totally different from,
Right.
the other field, which is, you have the industry, medical, and then you have, automotive and all that is totally, I won't say it's totally different because it's still making product, but
Right.
you have certain regulatory that are different, right? So this lady,
Absolutely.
a black lady, her name is Karen. She was wonderful. She was the one that pretty much changed everything about me. Like she will come and make me and sit with me, like draw plans, be like, "Hey, where do you want to be in 5 years?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's
Nice.
like, "Yeah, you have to have a plan for 5 years." I'm like, "Plan for 5 years?" I'm just trying to make it to the next day. I don't know, trying to save up money. I'm trying to save up
African.
money. Yeah, African man, trying to save money and get the money and go back home and like get
Right.
stuff. Yeah, because we all have that. I mean, most of us have that mindset, which is,
Absolutely.
we are in America, we're trying to build something, but the ultimate
Right.
goal is to go back home. So why would I try to have, plan for 5 years? I'm trying to buy land, buy house, stuff like that back home.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, we're gonna draw a plan where, 4 or 5 years, this is what you need to do in order to get to this point. And I was like, okay. So she kind of drew the plan and kind of explained me, hey, you have to get this certification, you have to do this training. And honestly, man, even with her, she would
Right.
bring me in her office and she had a board. She would just start writing on the board and kind of walk me through. And I was like, okay, this is, and
Yeah.
that kind of gave me the ideas. Like, I'm like, yo, guess what? That's true though. If you write it down,
Right.
you kind of have something you can look all the time, and it's so amazing how visual kind of guide you when you say,
Right.
you look at something, you're like, this is where I want to go.
Right.
So I went from there, did my PMP, which is the Project Management Professional certificate,
Right.
and then move into becoming project manager. So I did project manager there, and moving from there to now the company where I am a program manager. So it's just a journey where I learned. I think the main most important things were you keep pushing yourself. You keep pushing yourself. You keep improving yourself, and you're not doing it because all the people pushing you. You're doing it because you want to be better than you were yesterday. Always,
Right.
always, always, and then making sure that you have some type of plan. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan. It doesn't have to
Right.
be like, hey, this is where I'm gonna get, and you don't. And like we say, us as a believers, you plan, and God is ultimately the best of planner. He's the one that's gonna
Right.
guide you into where you need to be. And yeah, I think perseverance and working hard paid off. It pays off, and you feel very good when you are, like Lamine say, working in environment where not only you are the only black persons in the management, but you are the only Africans that actually work
Right.
in that whole place. But you're the only
Right.
black person and that just shows that
Yeah.
work hard is the thing.
Yeah. Jaina, I'm gonna do you allow if I jump in?
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I was when you were saying that, I was thinking about fitting into corporate America.
Right.
One of my managers had told me before, I mean, the biggest politicians in this country are not in Washington, they are in corporate America.
That's right. That's right. That
Right?
is true.
So that's the number one thing. That's where you deal with all types of, you know, things, that
Yeah,
Right.
makes you.
yeah.
Look, you have to. I was having a conversation with somebody one day when Jaina said he was working 15 hours.
Right.
I remember I had a position in Buckle where I was working 80 hours a week. I mean,
Right.
I got promoted. I get to the store. Um, I walk in. I have a first manager meeting the next day. About 5, 6 people quit because they're like, "This African guy is my new boss." No. So you find yourself in a situation where you working 18 hours. But I remember telling somebody one thing. Look, one, I'm a foreigner, right,
Right.
in America. Two, I speak with an accent.
Right.
Four, I am a minority in the sense that I don't look like everybody else here.
Right.
So we cannot afford to be average.
Absolutely.
So if I'm average, they don't need me. They will just have an American like a person from here do the job. But if
Right.
I'm here, like I have to be 10 times good to be considered
Right.
to fit into that group. So that is a segue into what I'm gonna tell Amadou because I saw you, Amadou, working and always in your laptop for years. And I remember telling you, dude, when are you gonna stop learning?
Right.
Because I felt like you were always in your computer taking classes, certificate. Like I have never seen you not sitting so literally. And I'm now that I'm thinking about it,
Right.
you and I were roommates for a few, but I have never seen you not like your time has always been either you're reading some type of book or you're learning
Right.
like a new skill set. And I'm still trying to figure out like when are you gonna stop learning, Amadou? Like what is the story here?
Man, I like that segue, right? Because I truly feel like we have to set up our mind to be lifelong learners.
Right,
If you Because even if you decide to step out of corporate America and venture out and be an entrepreneur, right? The world is evolving and changing at a rapid pace that it has never been this fast before, right?
right,
So now we can leverage tools like AI, different tools to actually help us actually not here to replace us truly, but to
right.
help us actually multiply our capabilities, right? So we cannot afford to sit and just be still. We have to constantly evolve, not only because there is somebody coming out of university that is faster, brighter, and that
Right,
learn the latest tools, the latest technology, right? That coming for your job, whether you like it or not, right?
right,
Although experience plays a valuable piece within this conversation because you can be as smart as you want, but if you don't have the experience, you can come and just not take the right decisions. That's why
absolutely.
you always have a senior in place to guide the newcomers, right? But
Yeah, right,
the day I realized that not only all of what you guys touch on is very valuable, the fact that we are in disadvantage when we're coming into this country for many many different reasons, right? Our accent, our race, many different other reasons that we probably don't have time to elaborate on here. But I understood that the day I started reading books, because I never had the opportunity, and again, this is one of the reasons why this opportunity room was created. I never had the opportunity to actually have a quote unquote true mentor, but I found my mentor to reading books, right? I found my mentor to listening to podcasts. I found my a mentor to listening to radio, because I'm looking at somebody that's very successful, that is a black guy or whomever, it could be different race, and he's in the position that I want to be in. And I just study that guy. Every single move, I study him. And that's my way of just having that mentor available to me. Not that I'm getting constant feedback from that person, but at least if I
right,
read this book that he spent many years doing research on, or listen to those podcasts that have so many gems, if I'm disciplined enough to apply that concept, and I can see how he has impacted my career, because everywhere I've been, I was always top three or top four employees in that corporation.
absolutely. Yeah.
So not to make it a long, drawn out answer, and I wanted to pivot and ask something different, because we all know that, all being from Africa, mainly in Senegal, that Africa has been the forefront of all of this conversation lately. Everybody know that Africa is the future, right? And uh, how can we, as the diaspora, right, just create opportunities at home, right? So because we see what is happening in Sudan, right? One of the richest country right now in Africa, right? We see what is happening in Mali, everywhere else, Niger, everywhere else in Africa. We have so many resources. In Senegal, we have so many resources, right? And we have these bright minds in the diaspora Lamin, you here, you between two countries, Jaina, you here, you one of the best in what you're doing, right? We have so many other resources here that are one of the best, but we're still in a poor continent, in a poor country. What can we do in the diaspora? And this question is for both of you. Whoever picked it up is fine, right? What can we do to actually help our country get to the next level? Because we all know, whether they say it or not, but Africa is truly the future.
Go
Jaina,
ahead.
maybe.
Go ahead, Lamin.
Ooh, Amadou, you are very good at this in the sense of how you put the questions, and 1 hour is not in. I think that calls for another opportunity room discussion in
I agree.
itself,
I
right?
agree.
Because it's what can be done. But the most important thing that I'm learning as I'm going between spaces and watching the people who are successful abroad or who are bringing change, it's a mindset,
Okay.
right? I think America and these countries are great because from a very young age, kids are taught that they are part of the greatest, the best, and the top. And they grow up in that confidence that, like, if you go abroad, if you see an American having the first thing they do, I'm an American. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
It's a mindset thing. How do we, the diaspora, the first thing we want to do is how do we start changing the mindset? One is, I think conversations help, right?
Right.
Things like the opportunity room, like these people are talking, maybe somebody's going to learn something that's going to make them change their mindset.
Right.
The same thing, we are mentoring, we've been mentored. I think the
Right.
diaspora can figure out a way to mentor some of our younger brothers and sisters who are back home who maybe didn't have an opportunity to get here, right?
Right.
And also in the conversation, I often say this, Amadou, we've been blessed in a way, right? For us to have gone through high school or maybe graduated, went to college for some of us, got good job, been exposed. You guys traveled, been to the world, China,
Right.
Asia. You might be top 1% of the continent if you think about it,
Right.
because not many people had that opportunity.
That's true.
So we do need to figure out a way to share our experiences on impacting others. How we go about it, I am still myself trying to figure it out, Amadou. Um, there are many, many different things that could be done, but I believe the future of Africa will come from the diaspora, right? I
Right.
think I think it's, will the diaspora all go back? I don't think that's possible. But now today with technology, there are so many things that that could be done. And we need to get away from this nonprofit mindset of just buying goods or and give it to people, right?
Right.
Because I heard once, another, like one of my mentor, which is Pierre Bujabi Atepa, who says
Right.
he's anti-fighting poverty, like
Right.
he is for creating wealth.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
And you know what I mean? So it's
I
like,
like
no,
that.
we're not forget about fighting poverty. Create
Right.
wealth. Like when you
Right.
start creating wealth there, something is going to happen naturally. So that's, I think, that's the beginning of a conversation that we need to take on. If I don't
That's
want
true.
to,
Yeah,
Jaina, go ahead.
yeah, I agree. I think for me, I always look at it and I'm like this. This is a start, right? Because I think what sometimes we're missing is creating a space, right? Because there is a saying that if you want to go fast, you go by yourself, but if you want to go a long way, you go and grow. I think we have to be able to kind of create space here first, because then it gives an easier way to kind of being able to address some of the issues like you brought up. There's a lot of smaller issues, right? But if we cannot create that space here while we are in the US, then it's hard for one person, because individualism is always has been the problem, right?
Right.
Right.
You took America. America was not built by individual, right? They kind of created this whole group. All these successful places you have seen, you have to create those successful group. And just us as even Muslims, right? The Ummah is what our prophet kind of teaches a lot of time, right? Is
Yeah.
everything has to be done through the Ummah, and I think
Right.
that's where we start. That's to me, that's where we start, and then now you can address some of those issues, which is education, helping here, helping here. Because if not, then you have a Magena who's going to be going building stuff for himself and his people because there's and the people that are close to him because there's no way he can impact that much, right? And you have
Right.
Alamin who's going to go do that, Amadou who can do that. But if we are able to, I think that's where the diaspora has to work a lot to
Right.
try to create those space here, and then be much easier than to go just like you guys had a corporation, some type of. It was a non-profit, but it was a
Right.
group of people that came together and say we're
Right.
going to do this because it's always easier that way, and it's sad that it's not that we don't do it that often, right?
Right.
Because there's always issue in any group you take, but
Right.
when you can look at the greater good, like you're talking about America, that's what it was. It's like, okay, we're looking at the greater good. We don't like each other, but guess what? We don't have a choice. This is our country. We're gonna make it
Right.
great. So how do we make
Right.
it great? This is what's needed, and that's where I think we have to work on. To me, for the diaspora, because like you say, diaspora is like we are probably like top 1% or 2%, and
Right.
because of the opportunity that we have and all this stuff, and we have to be able to use that and make a difference, and then go through all those little details where education, helping people to create opportunity and things like that. But I think we have to first create that space, and that's what I don't see a lot. To me, that's and like you say, I mean, it's probably gonna require another meeting if needed to be
Absolutely.
to kind of go into a lot of details. But I think to me, that's always how I kind of see it in some way, maybe.
Yeah,
So
both of you provided great feedback, man. And I would piggyback on last conversation that Pierre Gudavi Atepa had with the EYL, right? He said it's the same thing along what you just said, creating wealth. I mean, but he said that we need to make Africa great again. He actually picked that line from
okay.
President Trump, right? But we definitely need to make Africa great again, right? We have all the resources, like the mind, the people, the smart people are here, the resources are here, right? And I read also his book, Oze. Which have a lot. I think all of those things needs to be implemented in our school system, right? People need to read those books, right? Understand that the value, the books of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, just like they recently added that in our curriculum, right? Those books, Oze, we have to bake that into our new generation so they can be brought up thinking that Africa is not just about poverty, right? Africa is not about just fighting wars, and all of these people are creating wars because they want our resources. They don't want peace in our country, right?
That's right.
So I think, like I said, like you both mentioned, we don't have enough time in this platform to actually address it because this is a whole nother conversation, right? But
Yeah.
I just have one last question because you guys have different path. We all have different path, right? If we could redesign education, right, and a system, how would you redesign it? I mean, starting with you.
Well, today I am. If I could redesign education, I'm just looking at the length of my son. That's
Right,
10 years old, and my daughter that is 5. Both of them, right?
right,
How are they learning?
okay,
Um, I think how we went to school, where you go and open the books and start reading and memorizing. I think now tools are here to help you get the information that quick to
right,
where, because we used to do that because you used to be able, when they ask you a question, for you to bring it out of your brain. But
right,
now tools are there to give you the answer anyway.
right,
I think the education, the future where we're going, certain skill set, the machine is going to do it for you
right,
regardless.
right,
So the next generation we have to train need to be very self confident in this confident. in a sense
Right.
that they will be, it's less about what they know, but how they can present, how they can sell, how they can do things. I mean, the
Right.
world is going to get very competitive.
Right.
Hands on, how do we instill a system where children learn but at the
Right.
same time practice? If
Right.
I take it back to Africa, how do we even have our kids play with Legos? Something as
Right.
simple as putting Legos together,
Right.
or having a garden in the school to
Right.
start planting and taking care of trees. So I think if I was to design education, and of course, by me saying this, I'm not talking about America, I'm talking about what can be done
Absolutely.
in Africa.
Absolutely.
One, for a country like Senegal, English needs to be the language. We need to do away from French. I mean, you
Right.
need to keep it, but we need to make sure that kids are taught English early on.
Absolutely.
Two, STEM, yes, but through practical practices, right? They
Right.
need to, we need to spend less time in theories and more time into doing things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Jen,
I agree.
Majena, what's your
Yeah,
take on that?
yeah, I definitely agree. I think, like you say, I mean, education is different now, and I was talking to one guy, and he said something. He's like, AI is not gonna replace human being totally, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. He's like, but a person who know AI will replace the person who doesn't know AI. It's just like when the tractor came in, it didn't replace the farmer, but it replaced the
Right.
farmer who wasn't using the tractor,
The tractor.
right?
Right.
Yeah. So for me, I think let me touch on it when it comes to education. I look at education and I'm like, what's the purpose of education? Is
Right.
to build the knowledge, is to help people live better in their environment,
Right.
and build either, you can call it wealth, or because wealth is not just money, right?
Right.
Having a good environment where to live. And I think when I look at Africa, and I think the first thing we should do is look at what are the challenges we're facing. Like you look
Right.
at, you kind of try to divide the educations. You have a general education, and then you have education that are specific to certain region, right? Because you look at what are some of the challenges they're facing. This area,
Right.
maybe they have a problem with having water. What are the
Mhm.
studies that are onto water? How do you make sure that kids early on can address, you help them address those issues instead of
Right.
spending that much time where you study in classes. Think about it, spend a lot of time into addressing some of the issue. It doesn't mean it's going to
Right.
be fixed the
Right.
same day, but you know kids have such a brand where almost everything that has been created by younger people, because
Absolutely.
it's not that they smart, it's just you have more time, right? You don't
Right.
have a family to worry about, you don't have to bill to pay, you have that time. That's why
Right.
people invest so much into young kids. So to me, that's the first thing I would probably think we have to do. It's like,
Right.
hey, this region has this problem. How do we make sure that those problems, because now with the way technology is, there is always information that can help to improve those people's life, and then you address those, you bring it into school, you let the kids, sometimes you'll be surprised what solution they can come up with, right? To
Right.
deal with those. And of course, AI has to be part of it, right? Because
Right.
AI is just a tool that can help improve what you can do in 5 days. AI can help you do it in like 20 minutes, right? So,
Right.
so to me, that's how I look at education. I'm like, it has to change because, like Lamin say, you can't spend time just reading because you
Right.
have so many issues right now. And the biggest thing is the world is growing.
Right.
There's more people, and it's not like the land is growing. The land is not growing.
Right.
In the contrary, we are losing land because the water is taking a
Absolutely.
lot of land. So we get
Absolutely.
into a point where those resources are going to be critical for the human being. People gonna,
Absolutely.
you can kind of even feel, if you look at around the world, you can kind of feel all this aggressiveness that's coming from
Right.
a lot of countries because people
Right.
have to go and get those resources. So it's time
Right.
for, to me, in Africa, that we start teaching the kids to deal with survival uh, issues. When I say survival issues, everyday issue. How do we deal with it? How do we,
Right.
and at the same time, putting teaching them other things. So that's how I see education right now for me for the future.
Man, what a great conversation, man. I
Yeah,
think
Yeah.
we like to keep this interview to 1 hour, and I definitely will have to have this part two because there is a lot more information that this audience can benefit from, the world can benefit from. I believe that we truly have to create more content like this, right? Because the content will live on way after us, way
that's right.
past when we leave this planet, right?
That's right.
Oftentimes when we go to YouTube, right, when you type a search, how do I create this, how to generate this, you often see content from different people. We don't have enough content from our people, and we have
That's
so
right.
many bright people, right? This is just one out of a million people that can actually impact and influence people in so many different ways. So I would just ask, because we're just definitely going to have a part two on this conversation. So Lamine, I will ask you, what's your last word for this conversation, and I'll pass it on to Jenna before we wrap it up.
No, but first, Amadou, I want to thank you for your courage and your guts, man. Because what you're doing, like opening up yourself to the world, to have this room, to have people come and discuss. It's not. Some people might shy away from it, but the fact that you are doing this shows that you believe in something and you're pushing for it and you want things to change, and this is your way, and I'm sure that it's going to pay off in the long run. So for that sense, I want to thank you. I will tell more people to subscribe. I think that's the new thing, subscribe.
Yeah.
And hopefully on part two, you're not going to ask any question, Jay. Now we're going to have some questions for him to talk.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
I think some people want to know who's this Amadou guy, like what
Yeah,
is,
yeah, absolutely.
what can he share? And I think you have a lot to share. Also, you being very humble. I'm happy to be here in Atlanta. Jaina is hosting me, for people who don't know, at his house in Atlanta currently. So thank you for that, Jaina. And
Yeah,
yeah, we'll see you soon.
yeah.
Thank you, Lamine. So Jenna, one last word for our audience, and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I mean, just want to say thank you. I think, let me say, I mean, it's always a pleasure. And, this is one of, the best space where I like to be, right? Because you have yourself, you have Lamine, you know, we lived together before, so we kind of know each
Right.
other. We have a lot of plans for back homes and things like that, and which is good. And I like that you are creating this space, which is to me
Right.
like it's more valuable than that anybody can even think, because once we have this space, then I'm thinking it's probably going to help into creating more space like this, or making the space bigger. So that's where just it's always a good learning to be in this space, and it's always great to have conversation with people that have a great mind like you guys. It's always I learned so much from you guys. And hopefully this I hope this conversation was beneficial to people that are listening to it. That yeah, we try our best to, I guess, share the informations that I felt like was maybe beneficial to people, because it's all
Absolutely.
about learning. So appreciate that, man.
Good.
All right, man. Again, what a great conversation, man.
Yeah,
We started this conference talking about studying abroad, but you realize that education is it was just more about education. It was about transformation. It was about
absolutely.
leadership. It was about vision. It was about impact, right? So it's about taking risk on yourself, just realizing that journey doesn't really start with education, right? But again, this is the Opportunity Room. I'm your host. Thank you, Lamine. Thank you, Majena. And just please just subscribe and share. Thank you for reminding us that home isn't just where we come from, it's where we carry wherever we go. Thank you again for joining the Opportunity Room. Until next time, stay tuned for episode 2. Subscribe and share.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.